It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video. And today I wanted to start a new series that I'm going to be doing called Building an MSP. I've kind of wanted to do this for a while, and I've been putting everything together, and I'm still actually in the process of putting it together, and I'm sure I'll be in the process of doing that as this series continues on. If you don't know what an MSP is, it's a managed service provider. It's basically IT for hire. But as a contract. So you go out, you get a client, and you start setting them up so that you can do everything that you need to do for them in a remote way. I've been doing this for a few years actually for a local credit union that I'm a part of. And it's been a pretty good experience, and I'm learning a lot as I go along, which has also been great. They're very small, they don't have a ton of traffic, which makes it pretty acceptable for me because I have a full-time job. So I have to go do things after hours or on the weekends and really kind of deal with all the stuff that I have to deal with for them. But it's also a little bit of extra income. It's helped improve their systems and their circumstances greatly, so that's pretty great. But at the same time, it's something I'd like to see about expanding as I move to a new city here in the next few months. I'm definitely going to want to be doing that, and I think it's a great way to supplement my income or eventually maybe even just turn it into my full-time job. So I'm kind of excited about this video, and I hope you'll be excited about it with me. As we talk about this, we're getting into these basic requirements, and we're going to do it right after this little quick just thank you for everybody who is a patron over at Patreon. I truly cannot tell you how much I appreciate what you do and that you support these efforts that I put into making these videos. It just means so much to me that you appreciate the content and that you want to support me that way. If you haven't done so already, click down at the bottom, click on that subscribe button, and also just click on the thumbs up so that other people can get these videos and find out about the videos that I'm creating. I love open source. I talk about open source. That's really strictly all that I want to talk about is open source software and the way that you can do things with open source because it's amazing. So let's get into the basics of starting up an MSP. This is what I've kind of come up with as the things you really should have if you're just going to start out getting MSP going. And the good thing is that most of this stuff is available at no cost through open source software. But as you grow, most of these things have options for you to go out and say, okay, I'm growing. I don't want to keep doing my own infrastructure for this. I'd rather pay somebody to do that for me and let me take that off my shoulder so I can worry about my clients. And you can get out there and start paying them for their services, which is incredible because you're still supporting open source by doing that. You're making sure that open source continues, and you're really kind of starting with open source and continuing with open source as you grow and get bigger, and you pass that along to the open source community, which is really a great thing for me. So in the basics, we're going to need a VPN. You want to have a VPN for a lot of reasons, but one of the best reasons is that you don't want to ever have a security incident that was because you opened up ports. Nothing will kill your business faster than a security issue. So believe me, leave the fewest attack vectors possible. And part of that is having a VPN where you're doing everything over the VPN. Your client should be, should be using a VPN, and you should be setting them up to use a VPN if they're doing anything remote. All of your access should be through a VPN, and then you should have that tied to user accounts so you can see who connected or when they connected or what they connected to, and make sure that they have limitations to only be able to connect to the things that they need, which is also very important for you, making sure that everything is nice and secure at their businesses for them. So I highly recommend WireGuard. I think it's an incredible solution. It's fast. It lets you set up a nice flat network. But there's also some great software out there. I'll talk about some of it, and you can choose which one you like, and I'll talk about which one I'm going to use and why. But it gives you some really great control over who can see what. You can have everything in a flat network, but also separate it logically using software-based networking. So really great stuff. The next thing you're going to want is an RMM. This is remote monitoring and management. Now, some people say remote machine management. It doesn't really matter what you think of it. It's really more about you need to be able to remotely keep track of what's going on your client's systems. You need to be able to remotely access those systems to do certain things to make sure that everything stays up and running. What your client is depending on you for when you're running an MSP is that they don't have downtime. They don't have to deal with things. You should be catching it ahead of time as much as possible, but reporting to them, hey, I did this today. Hey, today I went and updated these systems. They needed some security updates. Hey, tonight we're going to do some updates. Make sure you save all of your work before you leave the office for the day and let all of your employees know to do the same thing. we're going to go in and do some network maintenance on the weekend. We're going to need somebody with keys to meet us there at this time. We need to schedule that stuff. It's stuff that they shouldn't have to deal with very much other than letting you in the building if you have to go down there personally. But most of the time you should be able to do that remote as well, because we'll talk about in the future some really great systems for doing software-defined networking like OpenWhisp2 and things like that. So also some really great things that let you have a lot of control over the hardware as much as the software for their networking as well. But RMM is so important. So we're going to talk about Zabbix and Mesh Central in particular, just because those are the two tools that I'll be using. I think Zabbix is really an awesome tool, but there's some other great ones. CheckMK is absolutely awesome. It's incredible. If you've already used it and you like it, definitely feel free to go use that one and support those guys. They're awesome. I've just been using Zabbix lately. I think it's pretty cool, and I like what I can do with it, and I'm kind of used to it right now, so that's the thing I'm going to start with at least. And you never know, I may move to something else in the long run. Remote support is another one that you need to be able to accomplish, because again, you're their IT support. So as their users have an issue, they're going to tell them, hey, you need to call Bob's MSP, and they're going to expect Bob to pick up the phone or answer in an email or tell them, hey, I'll call you right back or whatever, and then get back to them and help them with whatever their problem is. So I separate remote monitoring and management and remote support for one reason. If they're asking you to get on their desktop systems and they're having a problem while they're at work, it should be something where you have their trust and their confidence, and you're using a system like what we're going to use. I'm going to use RustDesk. It's really great. But what happens is you set an agent up on your side and an agent up on their side based on their machines. It's the client. And then you have a server that you're running somewhere, and those are connecting very securely using keys out of your server. And the nice thing about it is it will make a request to them to say, hey, Bob's trying to connect to your machine. Do you want to let Bob on right now? And they can say yes. Now you have options to set memorize passwords if you want to, and it can be very useful to do that, but I would say definitely talk with your client before you do that. Make sure that they understand you could access their machines at any time, and make sure you audit constantly who's connecting to what and who is getting on their machines. You want to make sure you have control over that. Again, this protects you in the case of an incident. You can say, we were not anywhere near your machines when this happened. You still have to cover them. That's your job, right? But you want to make sure that when it's desktop support, you have something where it's really them letting you on, so that they feel comfortable knowing that it's their machine when they're using it, and they're allowing you to get on and do that fix for them. I really like the separation there, so I'm going to keep that up. Backups is absolutely vital. If you are not helping your clients make sure that their data and systems are protected by backups, you are failing as a managed service provider right off the bat. You need to have something in place. You need to have strategies in place to help them make sure that they are getting everything backed up the way it needs to be, to make sure that you are testing those backups to make sure that they are valid, to help them know that if anything happens, you can get them back up and running quickly. Because if something happens, they're going to be depending on you to get them back up and running, because they need to do business. That's how they make money, and when they make money, they can pay you money. If they can't make money, they can't pay you money, and it all falls apart. So keeping them up and running should be always the first thing in your mind in the morning. Is everybody up and running, ready to go? The last thing you think of before you go to bed at night, are all the systems good to go? Can I go to sleep feeling confident that I'm going to wake up and everything will be ready in the morning? And if not, do I have everything I need to make sure I can get them back up and running quickly? And that includes backups for sure. There's a lot of different variations of how you could do backups, how you might have to do backups in this space, and it could be very client dependent, but we'll talk about a lot of those things as we go through this series. Invoicing. So again, if you can't bill them, you're not going to make any money. So you need to have a really good way of doing some invoicing. And there's some really great open source systems out there for that. I'm going to use InvoiceNinja to start off. We might move to something else later. There's a whole lot of options out there. But again, yeah, you have to be able to bill them. Setting up automated recurring invoices is really useful as well. Getting paid on a regular basis really helps you out. And it helps you figure out, like, hey, is somebody behind? Hey, do they need me to come by and talk to them? Is my contract coming up? Do I need to go back and talk to them for for contract renewal, that kind of stuff. So you want to keep up with those things, and it really becomes running a business at some point, as much as it is doing the MSP side of the work. You have to run your business and make sure that you're getting paid. The good thing is, if you provide amazing, great service, your clients are going to be super excited to pay you. They're going to be happy that they come in every day and they don't have to worry about anything. They're going to be happy when you send them reports telling them what all you're doing in the background to keep them up and running. It's going to pay off for you, I guarantee it. This is kind of an optional thing, but I highly recommend it. An SSO solution is going to be so vital for you as a person starting off doing this as an MSP. As you hire people, as your business grows, you're going to want to have this set up as well, because it's going to make it easier for you to get them onboarded and into the systems they need to have access to. And it could be somebody who's doing your payroll. It could be somebody who's doing your billing and your accounting. It could be somebody who's coming on to help you as part of the MST and IT infrastructure person, and they need access to different things. All of those different people need access to different parts of your business, and they don't all need access to all parts of your business. So having something like this set up can just help you make sure that these people are getting access to the right parts of the business that they need access to. Right out of the gate, we're going to talk about invoicing, and this is my Invoice Ninja that I just set up about a month ago. So you can see I've got a month's worth of bills here. I've got a test invoice, and then a regular invoice, and then another invoice that just went out today to make sure that I get paid for this work that I'm doing. Now, I'm not charging a ton. I'm not charging anywhere near what I should be, and we'll talk about pricing and billing. But yeah, this is just a really easy way. It sends an email to the client. The client can click it, they can open it, they can view it, they can pay it. Everything like that, and you can tie this to your Stripe account, your PayPal account. There's a lot of different ways you can do integrations with Invoice Ninja. It's really great. And the way I'm using it right now is self-hosted on the open source version. There's some limitations to that. I don't believe there are any SSO options on the self-hosted open source version right now. That doesn't mean they won't add them in the future, but right now there's no option to add SSO, which is a little bit of a bummer. I'm going to look into it, because you can pay a little bit of a fee to get some extra features. I think $30 a year. To have that. So if that comes with SSO, then that might be totally worth it for me, because I don't have to have another login I'm trying to deal with. I can set up my Authentic with it, and it'll be awesome. So yeah, invoicing is really important. This has a ton. You can set up so much stuff in this, and we'll go through it in a separate video. I've already gone through the install video, so I'll link to that, but I'll go through a video kind of showing you what things you can set up and where you should set those up. Mesh Central, an absolute must-have kind of tool. This thing lets you do so much, and it lets you access Linux systems, the command line, the desktop, as long as I don't think it has Wayland support yet, but maybe it'll add it eventually. But X11, it can absolutely do that on any Linux system I've seen so far. It's been able to do it. Windows systems 100% is supported, and they've got a lot of great features there. Mac, it can even do Mac OS desktop, things like that. So it's a really, really nice remote management system that lets you get in and do the things you need to do in the background. And like the things I'm looking at here, these are actually VMs, so I can get on and do these things on the VM system. I can get onto the main system. I can access them in any way that I need to, and do whatever work I need to. When you see them like this, that's because they're turned off. They're not actually on right now. But when they come back on, they'll connect, and it's really great. It's just got an agent that runs, and it's super simple to get installed. Kind of push this out to your clients' machines. It gives you really great access, and a ton of tools that you don't see them right off the bat. But if you've never watched any of my remote, my RMM or Mesh Central videos, you need to go watch them. A ton of information in Mesh Central is amazing. So Zabbix, I talked about that a while ago. I've kind of updated the dashboard a little bit. I've changed it and moved things around to see some stuff that I want to see, and I'm still getting it kind of set up the way I want. But in this case, I can see some different servers that I'm monitoring, and I can see the CPU usage, and it shows me just who's at the top, and it sorts them that way. Over here, same thing. So I can see memory usage. You can see here this one's got some pretty high memory usage, this one too. But as a lot of people say, unused memory is wasted memory. It's there to be used, so you might as well use it. So these guys are really making use of it. This one's making use of it. This one's not doing much, but it goes up and down depending on what's happening. So yeah, I can see what's going on with the machines. And down at the bottom, I've got this little readout that says, hey, you've got something happening with a machine here that you may want to take note of. In this case, it's just Google trying to do its updates in the background. VPN-wise, I'm going to use NetBird. The reason I like NetBird, and I don't like Tailscale any less, but I like the functionality that NetBird gives me as part of their open source solution, which is this graphical user interface dashboard. It has a lot of features in here that I can actually put to use. So the access control system is pretty straightforward and easy to understand. You basically create groups, and then you say, hey, these computers can talk on this group, and you can say whether they can go both directions or only one direction. It gives you a lot of control over what you can do in here, and I really, really like that. They've got some other things that you can set up as well here. So you can kind of see here like posture checks. You can go through and kind of get an idea of where you're creating outroads into another network. So instead of having to set up NetBird on every device on a client's network, maybe that's not useful to you. Maybe it's easier to set up a single VM or a single LXC container and then use WireGuard and set that up as your ingress point to that network, so that you're still going through your VPN to get on their network, but then you can access any machine on the network that you need to do work on through the actual network itself. DNS capabilities make it even better. You can set up different team information. You can add more users. Yeah, just a ton of stuff. And in this case, I am using my own Authentic instance to authenticate all my machines and devices. And I can set up things in Authentic to help me do that as well. So yeah, really, really super useful. Zabbix, I'm going to get set up with Authentic. I'm working on it. I'm using the Docker Compose that I found out on their project. But their information for how to set up their SSO in the Docker Compose is pretty light, if any at all. And I've seen a few posts, but nobody ever says like, hey, here's how I actually accomplished it. So I'm trying to get that together. And once I do, I'll tell you guys exactly what I did and how to do it. And hopefully that'll help a lot of people. Mesh Central, I think, can actually do LDAP as well. So I'll get that set up on my SSO at some point. Invoice Ninja is the only outlier right now. The other one would be RustDesk. And RustDesk is our remote desktop software. Really, really awesome. I'm using my own server, and you can see here it says ready in green, which means it's able to connect to the server. The key is correct and it's happy, and I get an ID, and then I can actually let people onto my server or not. You can see the little password, and if I don't want you to see the password when I'm done with the video, I just hit the refresh button and it changes. And if I hit the refresh button, it changes. So I'll hit the refresh button again at the end of the video. I don't use that password. I can set up my own passwords. So really useful. But yeah, this is kind of all of the actual software that we're going to be looking at over the next few episodes of these series, and I'm going to go into a lot more depth and detail about how to use this. Now, I've been running a very small IT for hire company. I have one client, and I've had that one client for a couple of years now. This is something that many of you are going to have much more experience with on a lot of the topics that I talk about. So if I miss something, if I state something incorrectly, or you feel like I wasn't quite clear enough with it, let me know in the comments. Please be polite, but be clear with what you're saying, because I do want to make sure that I'm giving the best information possible. And a lot of you guys are going to know more about some of these things than I am. And I want to hear from you so that I can learn and so that everybody else can learn as well. And I'll try to go back and cover those comments in other videos also. So I think this is going to be a great series. I'm super excited about it. Last thing I want to talk about is actually kind of setting up your pricing model. Pricing for your MSP is the last thing I want to talk about. This is not the pricing you should use or you have to use. This is just kind of what I've found by doing some basic research around the internet on the average prices for MSPs and how they bill. And there's kind of a mix of thoughts on how you should bill. So there's by number of machines, number of servers, number of printers, network equipment. And then there's also number of users. And there's some who say just do number of users, and they do like $150 a month per user. Or just do machines, and they do $75 a month per machine. That adds up really quick as you scale up your operation and as you go after larger businesses. And those businesses won't want to pay you, $400,000 to be their MSP. They're going to hire an IT guy. What you want to do is come in at a rate that says, look, if you hired an IT guy, you'd be paying them $130,000 a year salary plus their benefits. At the end, you'd be paying out $185,000 a year. We're going to be able to do this for you for $30,000 a year. That kind of thing. You want to come in at a price that makes sense for them and that makes fiscal sense, financial sense, and makes sense for you, that you're not putting yourself out there and you can't handle the work that you're asking for the price that you're asking for, but you also don't want it to be to the point that they may as well just hire an IT person or three for the price you're asking for. So what I've come up with is this little calculator. It's pretty basic. I kind of set it up as just desktop, laptop. This is going to be $25 a month. Servers, $100 a month. Servers are a lot of work, and especially when you have servers that are running virtual machines and containers and Dockers and storage locations and things like that. So $100 a month isn't that much for a server, to be honest. When you start looking at printers and things, printers are a pain. Printers unless they're very, fairly new or really good networked printers at a business. If you're talking like these little Jet Directs and stuff like that people start off with in their business and they keep forever, they're a pain, and you're gonna have to go out there in person a lot of times or send somebody in person. So I charge a little bit more if you have to deal with printer stuff that you can't do remote, especially. So yeah, that's why I added this $35 for the number of printers. Network equipment, usually pretty easy, and hopefully if you're helping them set up their network properly, you're getting some good software-defined networking going, and you'll be able to do that pretty easily and remote. This is the idea, is you want to be able to do everything remote. If you have to stop and go to a client site, you're losing money. You're not helping other clients, and being able to multitask in an MSP business is going to be a really, really massive game changer for you. So what I did was I set up these pricings, users $50 a month, because users are the ones who are going to call you in the middle of the day and say, hey, I can't do something. You have to get on and try to figure out what's happening and help them solve that problem. And that's going to take some effort. So I set this up and I just went in and put in some numbers. And what I did was I used my client as a starting point. So number of users is 4. The number of machines they have 1, 2, 3, 4 desktops and a laptop. So I put 5. I'm not including their virtual machines. That's included with their server right now. Now, depending on what's going on, if they're using virtual machines as desktops, and they're just using like thin clients that don't do anything, it's up to you if you charge per thin client or you want to charge per virtual machine or both. It just depends on how much support that's really taking, but I'm just counting that as part of the server right now for those virtual machines, or else it would be another 4 here, and this would go up, pretty good. So that'd be another $100 a month basically. But right now I'm doing 1 server, and then they have 5 printers because they're a credit union, and they print out receipts and checks and paperwork and contracts and loan papers and all kinds of things. They have a lot of printers to deal with, and some of them are the old 24 dot matrix printers. They're a pain, and they're aging, and they're very hard to keep running sometimes. And then the number of networking devices in their case is just 3. It's not a lot. They've got the firewall and they've got a router, and that's it. It's pretty basic, and then their modem. So yeah, it's not a lot. So when you add this up, this little calculator just says, here's how much money a month you're going to be charging them, $675. If they were to add a new user, that it just goes up. So I just made a calculator that figures out, how much of each of these things is here and show me a total. This is nice. This is basic. This is an easy way for you to start. Right now, I charge this client $250 a month. So you can see that if I put this back to 4, which is their actual count of users, $675 a month is almost triple what they're paying me right now. I could not come into them and say, hey, I had to go up my prices and give them triple. They would be like, okay, thanks, and they'd send me out the door. So you have to have a way to do something different and kind of think about, is this going to be feasible for this client to start with? Is this going to be something that they can handle? Now, $675 a month, we can do a quick calculation here, 12, there you go. There's what they're going to pay you a year, $8,100 a year. Now, if they don't have an IT person, this is $8,100 that they're not paying to anyone, technically right now. But if they were to call me in every single time they had a problem, or if they were to call me every time they had a problem and I charged them what I should charge them, which is about $65 to $75 an hour, they would pay me a lot more than $80,000 a year. But you need time to prove that you're worth this amount of money. You need time to show them, I'm worth the amount of money I'm going to be charging you. And what you do there is you give them really great detailed reporting with detailed time, and you show them, here's what you paid me this month. Here's the amount of hours and time I put into things this month, and here's how much it would have cost you at my normal hourly rate if I just multiply that out. And be honest, if you spent 10 minutes on something, charge them 15 minutes. If you spent 25 minutes on something, charge them 30 minutes. If you spent 32 minutes on something, charge them 30 minutes. If you spent 35 minutes on something, still just charge them 30 minutes. But if you spent almost an hour on something, charge them an hour. I mean, be honest with what you're billing and show that your time is worth the amount of money that they're going to be paying you and what you're asking for in that full contract. So you could start off with discounts. And I thought, okay, I need a way to give discounts. So I just switched up my spreadsheet a little bit, and I went in and kind of threw in some ways to do discounts. So we've still got the same setup. I switched up users, by the way, so that everything's at the bottom for users and everything's lined up here, but it's 5 desktops and laptops, 1 server, 5 printers, 3 networking devices, and 4 users. So we get the normal $675 that we should have gotten. What I did was I said, okay, you can put a percentage in for how much their discount should be, or you can put a flat rate in for how much their discount should be, or you can put both if you want to. So as you're going out and you're talking to your clients and you're saying, you know what, this is what it's going to look like. You got your laptop or your tablet there. You say, but you know what, let's put in some discounts because this is a little high for you guys. So let's just hit the ones that are going to cost them the most, which is this 5 by 25. Let's just give them a 15% discount right here. And you see right there, the price changes and it drops. And they can see it drop as you do it, which makes them go, oh, it just went down. That's a good thing, right? They see that it's going down. And you say, you know what, let's just give you 25% off here on the server. And let's also give you 25% off. You don't want to give percent off on the printers if you don't have to. Networking equipment, hopefully it's easy. You'll say, let's give you 10% off on that. And you know what, let's just give you 20% off on your users here. And then, boom, you are down almost $100 a month for them already. So they're seeing, here's the savings, $91 a month. You say, you know what? I want to get it down a little bit more for you guys. I'm just going to give you a flat, I'm just going to remove a bit of money for you to make it easy. I'm not going to charge you for the networking equipment at all. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm going to take that out and I'm just going to say here, I'm just going to make that 100%. No networking equipment initially. You're down to $516. And you say, you know what? That's not quite enough. Let's get you down a little bit more. Let's just take out that 16.25 and you're down to $500. Now you could put in things on every line here and it's going to add up. But you've got them down to $500 a month from $675 a month. They're getting a huge discount to this point. You're saying, is this something you can do for 6 months? In 6 months, you'll show them that they're saving so much money by paying you this much a month. They'd be paying you $675 a month is still saving a ton of money. You can come back and say, hey, it's time to bump up to that price without the discounts. I hope you're satisfied with my work. And if you've done your job, they're going to be satisfied with your work and they're going to be happy to pay you that. So this is just a simple way to look at how to calculate what you should charge somebody. This is just my concept of what I should be charging somebody. This does not mean that this is how you should do it. You can go in and put any prices you want. I will make this available on my website. You can download this spreadsheet. This is in LibreOffice Calc, of course. And you can go and set the prices right here to whatever you want. And it's going to adjust what this calculates, of course. This is just percentage, and then this is just a flat rate. And then down here, this just calculates out by whatever you type in right here. So I'll make sure to highlight the places where you can type and change things, and I'll try to lock the ones where you shouldn't change things. And yeah, I'll put it out there on the website. But I think when you're talking about starting a business, you need to have a pricing model in mind, or else you're just going to put yourself in a position where you're not asking for enough for the amount of work that you do for that business. And if you're doing the work and you're doing it well, they're going to be happy to pay you for what you're doing. They're going to recognize that what you do is important and that what you do is valuable. And you're going to help them recognize that by giving them really great reporting on it. So we'll talk about reporting. We'll talk about all kinds of really great things you can do every month to help build your business up and how you can make that easier and easier for yourself over time. I'll talk about some other great templates I built to help me with reporting to the businesses as well. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the open source journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.